Hello and welcome to Unacademy. I welcome you all to the second episode of the beginner series, which is Basics of Ancient India. Now, as I said in the last episode, this session is for a student who has no idea where to start with regards to his preparation or her preparation. When it comes to the NCERTs also, they presume a lot of things and there's a need to understand the nitty-gritties or even the nuances which are there within the NCERT. And this session tries to bring in those nuances in front of you and explain them to you. So in the last episode, we were able to establish the timeline, the concept of time itself, and how and what sources are used by historians to write history. Now, in this episode, we are going to discuss the basics of prehistory to Mahajanapadas, which is the age of Buddhism and Jainism, and what you need to keep in mind before you open that chapter in the NCERT or you open that chapter in any standard book. Now, before you begin, you have to understand that for anybody who's preparing for 28 and 27, or you are basically trying to start your preparation, NCERT is not a complete resource in itself, specifically for history, wherein you have the 12th class, part 1, 2, and 3, where part 1 is for ancient India, and be it R.S. Sharma, Bipin Chandra, or Satish Chandra, you have to understand the nitty-gritties before you can actually start anything. The old NCERT, the new NCERT, you have to understand these concepts. So this session is to make you understand what are the base knowledges which are needed. So before you start the NCERT, you watch this session. Now, before we begin, Unacademy Platinum is our program which gives you an offline experience online. It is known for an interaction like this, wherein with a smart board setup, I can see you, you can see me through Zoom, and the idea is to induce accountability and discipline. Now, irrespective of Unacademy Platinum, if you are confused where to start your preparation, what to do, what is Unacademy Platinum, you can use the link in the description box, which has a Google form link. Just fill that up. You will get a counselor's call. They will explain to you what is UPSC CSE, how to go ahead. If you're confused for any aspect, how to choose optional, anything, mentorship at any level is available through that form. You just have to fill it up. And as part of the Unacademy Platinum program, in the coming week, we will have 3 sessions free for you where you can experience the Indian national movement through the concept of platinum. So therefore, look out for that, and you just have to subscribe to our channel for that. Now, let's first talk about prehistory and what are the things which you should know about prehistory before you look at any of the available resources, be it the NCERT, be it the courseware on Indian history, be it anything. Therein, you have the concept of Paleolithic, Mesolithic, and Neolithic. And the word lithic is very, very important here. Lithic. The word lithic basically means Stone Age. Paleo means old. This means middle. And this means new. Now, what is the difference between the two, or rather the three? And here you have to understand that there is a time difference as it is. This is 2.5 million BCE. If you don't know what is BCE, you have to watch the last episode of this series itself. Then this is 10,000 BCE, and this is 4,000. This is 4,000 BCE. 4,000 BCE. Varies from region to region, will vary from book to book. But what is the important aspect here is that they are very important and fundamental for human development. As you know, we all have evolved from apes. Therefore, we have certain ancestors which were not fully Homo sapiens sapien as we are today. So, a very important transition happened from Homo erectus to Homo sapien here in Paleolithic. So, Paleolithic is where Homo sapien as a species comes into existence. And Paleolithic is also the age of fire, where fire was domesticated. Hunting gathering societies, simple societies, very straightforward societies, but it was based on the idea of ice ages. This falls under what is called as epoch called Pleistocene, which is very cold environment, and mean temperature of the earth was close to minus 15 degrees Celsius. Therefore, what happens is the evolution of man is also dictated by that. Equally humans, equally the what we call as animals, bulky, hairy. Your hair is basically an reminiscence or an example that you were an ancestor of the Homo erectus or the Homo habilis. This was to give you insulation in that cold. Fire is a very important thing which was developed in the Paleolithic period. So very straightforward. Then from Pleistocene we move into Holocene. Holocene basically means the era or the epoch we are in right now. Warming of the earth, global warming, mean 15 degrees Celsius, and thereafter animals become smaller and faster, humans lose out their hair, and we also start to develop what we call as very sophisticated tools, which are called as microliths. Tools here are very bulky. Here they become smaller and we have to throw them because the animals are faster. This is also the period of the domestication of animals. What do I mean by domestication of animals? Basically animal husbandry. Over centuries of trial and error, the goat, sheep, dog, cat, these animals were domesticated. Animal husbandry comes up here. Also, this is the era in which the concept of afterlife is coming through, rituals, burials. Burials become very common because with the warming temperature, hygiene is very important. So you have to bury the body underground. So we also have rituals and burials as an important. If you will go through this session and then read the NCERT, you will understand the thought process of 12th class NCERT. It is based on this. What is interesting is 12th class NCERT, ancient India, does not have reference to prehistory. It starts with Indus Valley civilization. That is why NCERT is not a complete resource. Then Neolithic is the world becoming sedentary because we have domestication of plants, which is nothing but agriculture coming up. Agriculture comes up, people become sedentary. Early state formation happens during this period because surplus comes up. Somebody has to redistribute the surplus. So early state formation comes up during this period also. So Neolithic is considered to be a revolution. It changed everything. We settled down. We have available resources. We have surplus of resources, population explosion, early state formation. A lot of things now come together. Now, if you go back to any standard resource, it will make sense why these are three very important periods in Indian history, generally human history. But these are also the most important contributions of these periods, which can be asked in the examination straightforward. But we are not right now trying to learn for the examination. We are trying to create our basics, which we can use for the examination. Now, prehistory, also you have what is called as sites and location. This is something which we can do as an intermediary course, as an advanced course. But for a beginner's course, you understanding the evolution is most important. But when you have understood the evolution, you should go to sites and location where they are, because UPSC is asking questions out of it. If you're looking for a consolidated resource for the sites in that regard, you can refer to the course on Indian history. It has everything in one place in boxes. Where is the location, where they are placed, written by me, McGraw-Hill. You'll find it on Amazon. Now, moving out of prehistory, one period which is called proto-history is called as the chalcolithic period. When we talk about chalcolithic, it means chalco means copper and lithic means concept of stone. Now, chalcolithic age basically manifested itself in these two forms. The ones which you see here, they are called non-Harappan chalcolithic cultures, which is Gyaneshwar, Jodhpur, Ahar, Kaitha, Joare, as you can see, spread across India. And then you have the Indus Valley civilization as the second manifestation of chalcolithic. But this is also called as Bronze Age because bronze was actually developed by the IVC, not by them. They are contemporaries to one another. They interact with one another. They actually also at the same point of time are trading with each other. We will not go into the advance here, but you have to understand that non-Harappan chalcolithic cultures don't have the same pottery. They are very urbanized. They're not very urbanized, ruralized. Rural and having very rudimentary forms of institutions. They are localized. This is more integrated, localized. So this is where you have to understand chalcolithic has two manifestations. which is the concept of IVC, and the other which is the concept of non-Harappan chalcolithic. Now, in this we have to concentrate. As beginners, you should know and you should understand what is the Indus Valley civilization. See, Indus Valley civilization is a word which is used interchangeably for the Harappan civilization. Harappa was the first site to be found by a person called Charles Mason, a British officer who was moving around in the Sindh area. He will find Harappa. That will in turn lead to whole excavations, Alexander Cunningham, and thereafter you have John Marshall. In 1924, the world will get to know there's something called Indus Valley civilization, also now called as Indus Saraswati zone. Why? Because previously it was presumed that all the sites are either on the tributaries of the Indus or are localized, but we have also understood there's something called the Saraswati river which has now dried up. Gagra Hakkar river is the, you can say, reminiscence of it, but Indus Valley or Indus Saraswati zone, which UPS is also using as a term, is first urbanization. First urbanization means there's proper form of town planning, there is urbanization, there is modernization, there's a lot of features which we don't even have till today. But the first basic thing which you should understand about Indus Valley is its location profile. See, location wise, Indus Valley civilization sites don't enter the Ganga Yamuna area, which is Ganga Yamuna Doab. Doab means two water bodies, which is the most important alluvial plain for us. They don't enter this sector because they don't have iron. Because they don't have iron, they cannot develop what is called as axes, which can then be used to cut down the forest, which in turn means that they are limited to this area. This is a marshy territory, very what we call as marshy plus forested. Now, in this, Manda is the northernmost site of the Indus Valley civilization, which also is in Pakistan today. There's a place called Daimabad, which is considered to be the southernmost site of the Indus Valley civilization. Then we have this place called Surka Gendor or Sutka Gendor, which is the easternmost site, rather the westernmost site, and the easternmost site is Alamgirpur. This is an NCERT map for your reference. Basically, if you look at the basic spread from Alamgirpur to Sutka Gendor to Manda to Daimabad, all sites, important sites. For example, you must have heard of Dholavira, of Lothal, of Mohenjo-daro, of Harappa, of Rakhigadi, of Kalibangan in your school syllabus. These are areas which you would know. Now, there are 1,000+ sites of IVC. You cannot learn all of them. What is expected from you is to know the major ones and what is the site profile. What is important as basics is what are the features which makes Indus Valley civilization so important. We have, for example, town planning. Town planning means the concept of citadel and lower town. We have streets which meet at 90 degrees. We'll have a more, you can say, more detailed discussion when we go into a more advanced course. But the idea is we have 90-degree, what we call as streets. We have drainage and fresh water supply. We have water harvesting. We have wells. We have reservoirs. We have toilets attached to household. Household itself has a lot of privacy concepts. The town planning aspect of industrialization makes it the most interesting. Then we also have a lot of uniformity and standardization. What we mean by uniformity is that across the civilization, you'll find bricks in the ratio of 1:2:4. We have weights and measures which are not based on modern concept but are actually uniform. We have pottery which is quite uniform. We also have trade, which is both internal and external trade. Trade internally for raw material, externally with Mesopotamia, which is again a very old Bronze Age civilization, or even the Oman sector, or with the Sinai Peninsula, which is nothing but Saudi Arabian Peninsula. We have seen a lot of these advanced features there. They had a religion which was based on male and female deities, but there's no concept of temples per se. We find no evidence of warfare. We have writing also, which is called Bostrofenden, but we have not been able to decipher the writing of the Indus Valley civilization. We have political setup, but we don't know what type it is. So when you go into the subtypes here, you will understand there is a lot of nuance. But you understanding that the IVC is IVC because it basically has a very big presence, scale, civilizational scale, but also because its features are very interesting. So if we talk about the features in detail, which we can do further in another episode, but the idea is you should understand why is that everybody is obsessed, and even UPSC is obsessed with this area. Very, very high yielding area. UPSC generally asks a question out of this. Dholavira, one of the only sites, or the only site in India to get UNESCO World Heritage tag. Now, from the point of Indus Valley civilization to the point of Vedic age, we basically find a period of 500 years where we really don't know what happened, because we don't have evidences properly. And this is the age in which there's something called Aryan migration happened into India or happened out of India. Again, a debate which for basics you don't have to go into. Word Aryan is some people together used to speak Indo-European language. It is a speech group, linguistic group. They used to speak, they started to migrate out of the core area. When they started to migrate out of the core area, they will migrate into India also. Or it is said that Sanskrit speaking people started to migrate out of India. We don't have to go into that. But Sanskrit and Brahmi, the first language, again, according to the NCERT and according to the sources available, and the first script, which is Brahmi, comes into existence. Now, Vedic age is quite interesting. Why? Because the Aryans wrote these texts, which has reminiscence in the Jain Avesta. We have the multiple texts in Iran and in Central Asia, which match the Vedic understanding. But what are the Vedas? Basics here. Vedas is a set of 8 books, 4 primary, 4 secondary. Rig, Yajur, Sam, Atharva, and then you have Aranyaka, Brahmana, Samhita, and Upanishads. Out of the reading of the Rig Veda, we get early Vedic age, which is basically 1500 to 1000. Whilst Sam, Yajur, and Atharva, they give us the story of later Vedic period. Whilst the 4, which is Aranyakas, the Brahmanas, the Samhitas, and the Upanishads, they basically establish what are these texts trying to tell us. Now, based on the reading of this, we get this period between 1500 to 500 BC till 6th century BC. Now, in very simple terms, what the UPSC has asked previously can ask is evolution, which is Vedic age, early Vedic to later Vedic. What are the differences and what can be asked generally? Here you have to understand that they are pastoral, animal husbandry based. They value cattle more. Their kings are based on chieftain understanding, where the elder experience matters. Society is not divided into different stratas per se. Occupational differentiation is there. Women have relative freedom right now. Patriarchy, which is the domination of women by men, is in its infant stage. And at the same point of time, there is no trade, no currency, but it is a basic concept based on what is called as pastoral life, pastoralism. Limited agriculture is there, but when later Vedic comes into context, we get a huge transition. From pastoral, it becomes agricultural. With agricultural, you get a lot of different, you can say, cascading effects. Land becomes an important concept. Kingship becomes monarchical, single man rule with hereditary concept. And now controlling land is very, very important. Territory is very, very important. At the same point of time, later Vedic period is when patriarchy is going to become crystallized. So women will be dominated by men, and the social evil of women's discrimination vis-a-vis men will come through. But the two things which are still relevant is the fourfold Varna structure, which is Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, comes up in this period. Also in this period, we get the first religion of India, which is called Vedic Brahmanism, or the earliest form of Hinduism. Early Hinduism or Vedic Brahmanism is very, very important. These are things which are needed to understand the 12th class chapter which you are going to read, or any standard book, because you have to understand there are two different phases with an evolution over a period of time. Therefore, keep these things in mind. Now, when you will go through the chapter, it will make sense. You have to look for these transitions. That is why they are important. Then, the later Vedic period leads to the crystallization of political structures in India. There were 22 Janapads. Janapad means people-based territories. Janapada. And they got crystallized into 16 Mahajanapadas or Mahajanapadas, which is 16 big structures. Within that, some of them were monarchical, which is one-man rule, very strong, ritualistic kingship, where people, the Brahmin and the king are together very closely, very autocratic control, if you want to say. And there was another way of saying it, which is called oligarchies were also there, which are called as Gana Sanghas. They are called as Gana Sanghas. These Gana Sanghas basically were oligarchy, rule of few coming together. Now, one of the simple basic things which you should know about the Mahajanapadas is that there are 16 and their location is important. Coming out of the NCERT, an important map. A very straightforward question which came in 2025 was location, river, Mahajanapada. You can get all of this consolidated information within the courseware. You will find it in the books also, but it will be scattered. The idea is very simple, that you need to first understand that the location is very important. Let's look at their location first. We have northernmost two very important, Gandhara and Kamboj. These two with their capitals, you should know the capitals also as the third level of understanding. These two are in the what we call as northwestern sector. So whenever they are asking questions about where did Buddha operate, Buddha operated in this area. Where did Jains or Mahavira operated? Again in this area. Here we have the most powerful one, which is Magad, because of its location, access to iron with Rajgir as its capital important. Then we have next most important and powerful, which is called Kosala. Again, very important. Then Panchal and Kuru. These are four very strong, very, very strong Mahajanapadas. Then you have Anga Vanga, sometimes also called as Anga only. Then you have the southernmost, which is called Ashmaka. Southernmost, northernmost. The Avanti and the Ashmakas are the ones who basically are south of the Vindhya Satpura range, tends to show you the expanse. All of them are fighting one another. Be it the Chedis, be it the Vatasya, be it the Matasya, be it the Surasena, be it the Mala, be it the Vraji, be it the Mala or the Vraji, you have these areas fighting one another. Your first basic understanding should be that where are they? You should know the location first. If you understand their location, half of the story is already sorted. And when you understand their location, then you can learn that, for example, Mala, Vraji are Gana Sanghas along with Kamboj. These are Gana Sanghas, mostly in hilly terrains where there is no agriculture properly. They are Gana Sanghas. Some of them, for example, even Kosala, Panchal started as monarchies, later became Gana Sanghas, but that information is not needed for basics. So when you are going to refer to the 12th class NCERT chapter, or you're going to refer to any standard book, don't get overwhelmed by this chapter, just have to understand the location based understanding. If you can understand that, if you can understand you can say location, then you're sorted. Now, in today's session, I wanted to create the base for these areas. What is prehistory? What do you mean by IVC? What is meant by Vedic? What is meant by Mahajanapadas? Now, in the next session where we will transition from Maurya to Gupta, that session is going to be very, very important, because The third episode, I will explain to you how the political evolution or the political landscape of India evolved. Most of the students get caught up in Maurya and Gupta period because of the post-Maurya being very, very messy. So I will try to explain to you how that transition happens through maps. So I hope that you're liking these sessions. Again, this is not for a student who has already gone through the NCERT or gone through some standard book. It is a student who does not understand where to start with ancient India or with history. So these beginner series are targeting that person who has a lot of, you can say, backlog or has no understanding of history itself, and therefore establishing that for them, and then in turn opening up a bridge for what we can do further. So I hope that you're liking these sessions. If you are, like, share and subscribe to the sessions itself. I will see you in the next episode where we'll complete ancient India, but a very interesting one based on political evolution. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.